Chase debit card or nothing. Didn't have my phone either. Lost everything. I was fucked. If it wasn't for the mercy of God and the manager that was in that Chase that allowed me to just draw out $20 so that I can make the appropriate phone calls, I don't know what the fuck would have happened. You understand? I'd probably be stranded out there for way longer than the fucking 8 to 10 hours I was out there. And this is a control mechanism. So understand that. Yeah, it's convenient in some ways, in most ways, but in the ways that are most important, it's restrictive. How the fuck you telling me I got over fucking 20 bands in my account? I could easily have bought a fucking regular phone so I could continue doing what I was doing and not lose 8 to 10 hours in a trip. But because I didn't have my proper identification, and this is what they're going to tell you. Instead of having your ID now, why don't you just give us your biometric information? Why don't you just allow us to read your aura and your fingerprint and your iris? Just let us scan all those things. And then that way you won't have to worry about losing your credit card and your checks. And it'll all be there. Convenience is the killer for lazy people. All right. So that has to do with that creating a world system of financial control in private hands. This is why you see me had the last 2 posts or 3 posts that I've had about sociopaths and psychopaths and their effectiveness in getting to the top of a capitalistic, material, profit-driven, economic-based system. This is why it foments the success of materialism. So people who are Darwinian evolutionists, people who are materialists, people who are lower self, people who are cruel and apathetic instead of empathetic, they're usually a massive success within, and I say success with air quotations, within a corporate capitalist system. Okay, and this is the problem, is that corporations didn't exist when the free market enterprise was essentially created. Not in the sense that it is today, where corporations are considered a person. Okay, they have legal status as a person. You talking a fucking corporation can be considered a human, on par with a human being. That is the place where the elite put the stipulation in, which is able to hijack the capitalist free market enterprise. Okay, this is why we're being put back into corporate feudalism. So see how all of this is tying into the posts that I have all over the page? Everything ties in once you have a more complete understanding. This is that everything is one in universal theory. There's truth to it. So let's keep it going. Okay, so we talked about the financial aspect and the private hands able to dominate the political system of each country. So Lord Mayor Amstel Rothschild said back in the 1700s, "I care not who makes a nation's laws, if you give me control of a nation's money." Okay, and money is the lifeblood, the energy of a nation. Okay, why is it the lifeblood and the energy of a nation? Because money is a symbolic or a strawman representation of human energy. Motion, action, life. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you use your motion and your action to work towards something, to achieve something, to build something. And then by extension, somebody else may see that work ethic and they may want to trade with you a skill set or barter with you a good. And then from bartering and goods and exchanges of services and items, we went on. I'm trying not to have cotton mouth, and I'm known for having this cotton mouth shit. So when you see me doing all this, I'm not trying to be like young Pharaoh and pretend like I'm a reptilian. That nigga be licking his lips like all the fucking time. I'm like, God damn, I get it. But it's about energy exchange. So now the corporations have taken over the dominance of energy exchange. And the private, when it says in private hands, that's talking about the international banksters, the private banking institutions like the Federal Reserve. This is why they use the United States as a nation to invade or imperialize other nations, break them down so that they need the financial assistance of the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, right, which is controlled by the private banks. The IMF then comes in chooses a particular leader or bribes a particular leader, this is where the satanic ritual abuse comes in, bribes a particular leader, gets them in pocket or under control through blackmail, okay, and then that leader then sells the natural resources to the corporation, which ultimately represents the nation for which went and invaded, which is the United States. So this is how the international elite have cuckolded the United States corporation within itself and the U.S. Constitution, and have used corporations through the free market enterprise system of capitalism to take over the private institutions, which is an element of communism. You don't want to centralize everything. The only way we centralize everything is if the creator controls everything and we do what the creator says. If the creator's not in control, you don't want to centralize anything. You want everything to be spread out. Okay? For instance, being that most states centralize their production of food, and the United States will centralize their production of food, what do you think is going to happen when, especially in the major cities, when the delivery services are shut down because gas prices are too high, and your local businesses and ultimately your bigger corporations start to capitulate to the hyperinflation which is going to take place? Who going to deliver food to the major cities? When them people starving and them bread lines ain't enough and them rations run out, what do you think gonna happen? What do you think gonna happen? Your ass gonna have to be, people gonna be eating people. I'm telling you, I done see it in the dreams. I know it's about to happen. I ain't gonna be here for it. I'm not here for none of that. Okay? So anyway, this is how they control the political system of each country. So when you see me bring up Gary Webb and the CIA and economic hitmen and things of that nature, that this all ties in. Everything got to do with everything. It all piggybacks off each other. Okay, so let's keep going. And mind you, we still only have 44 minutes in. We still only halfway through one page of this. So I just want to point this out. Just because we write notes, that means that the information is dense. Like, we really have to unpackage and peel back the layers to understand what's going on. All right. So let's keep it going. Each country and the economy of the world as a whole. Now, thanks to the IMF, which has been funded and ultimately created by the United States Corporation, which also created the United Nations. A lot of people don't realize the United Nations is a subset of the United States. The United States, and it was Howard Taft, and I forget what the other dude's name is, but I know for sure Howard Taft, an American politician, he's the one who came up with the idea of the League of Nations, which is a result out of the Treaty of Versailles. Okay, now the League of Nations then evolved into what we call the United Nations. The League of Nations was completely funded by the United States Congress. So if the League of Nations is the prerequisite to the United Nations, and the United Nations' number one financial contributor is the United States, and the United Nations' number one military contributor is the United States, this would make sense. Howard Taft and them boys knew exactly what the goal of the United States was. If you read the book by Manly P. Hall, Destiny of America, or if you read Albert Pike, who's a high level, if not the highest level Freemason in the United States history, 33rd degree, one of the most influential men of the time and probably of all times in the United States, has a book called Morals and Dogmas where he explains this. The destiny of the United States. All the world wars were already planned. What did we just say all the way up the top? Let's bring it back into fullness. There's only two options. It's an accident or things were planned. Okay, so let's keep it going. Okay, aiming to control all natural resources. This is what economic hitmen, I just explained what that's for. Businesses, banking, and transportation. Okay, if you can control what the people or the masses eat, what they think and digest mentally, and what they digest physically, then you've controlled the human being completely. Okay, remember, your soul, okay, or your mind, what you think, what you feed your mind. Remember, the Torah Tanakh tells you, to be careful what you put before your eyes, because it becomes habitual, or through neuroplasticity, it becomes familiar to your environment internally. And once your environment is set internally, it dictates what you're willing to accept externally. So this is why the scriptures tell us it's very important what we put before our eyes, and essentially what you put before your eyes is what you feed your mind. Your eyes, right, perceive reality, take the electrical stimulus that you call visible light, the visible light spectrum, feeds it to the back of the brain, the occipital brain. This is why it's important to understand how you as a human being work, how your brain works. It's the same as understanding how a car works. You're not going to buy a top-end car like a Porsche and put regular fucking gas in it. If you do that, and I'm not even a big car guy, but I know this, right? As it's just common sense. If you buy a high-end car, high-performance car, you have to put in premium gas in it, the best type of gas that you can find to put in that motherfucker, because it will maintain the engine, and maintaining the engine maintains the life and the longevity of the car. And it's the same that goes on in the human body. Cars are built with the human body in mind. They're like the functioning of the flow of oil and the engine, and it just everything is built off of what the Creator has done with His blueprint. Nothing new underneath the sun. You can only recreate things. Remember, we just said maybe 20 minutes ago, energy, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. You can only find inspiration and transformation or alchemy through these things, whether mentally or physically, right? And I know the word alchemy is an occult word, so for those of you who don't know what occult means, occult just means hidden science. That's all it means. Or in other words, the spiritual aspects of things, the philosophical, the mental side of things. That's all occult is. So don't be spooky. Don't be scared. It's okay. The Creator created everything. It's your intention and how you use the things that are available in creation which determine whether something is good or bad. That's just the simplicity of the matter. So if you can control where a people are able to go and transport themselves, why do you think automated cars and AI-driven cars is such a danger? It's cool, but again, it's convenient, but it's in terms of control. Government and centralized power would have way too much control. If you can't even put gas and drive up, that means we're going to be traveling by foot in order to get places again. If you really want to do and act upon your free will, or you just do what the government tell you. I ain't getting no AI car. I don't even like cars with electrical computers in they shit. Like right now, I'm looking for a whip that I can get that's old school, all metal body, no computer system in there. Fuck all that. Fuck that. Okay. So natural resources, obviously, you can't barter anything if you don't control anything. You can't feed yourself if you're not allowed to grow your own food. Banking through fractional reserve banking and interest rates, they've been able to put people into usury-based slavery, and usury or inflation and interest is a sin in the scriptures. That's wicked and foul to use that shit. And this is the reason why the scriptures are against the concept of fractional reserve banking, because essentially the lender is the one stealing value from the person who they're lending. In Israelite culture, in our ancient culture, our people, in relation to dealing with our own people, we didn't charge each other interest. If I loaned you $5,000, I expect $5,000 back. That's it. I did it out of the kindness of my heart, not to get up on you, get over on you. And our people don't understand that. Like that law of no inflation, no usury goes hand in hand in being your brother's keeper. If you're your brother's keeper, you do things to help build them up, because building them up helps build you up and helps build the overall community and the family and the community and overall nation up. When you try to eat and leech off of each other, can't nobody build nothing, because everybody too busy trying to increase their profit margins, which is the curse of capitalism or materialism. Now, if you apply a Torah Tanakh based mindset to a free enterprise system of capitalism, that's probably the best that it'll get, economically speaking. But that's just my opinion. Okay. So by controlling the world's governments, you first take control of their natural resources, businesses or private businesses. You kind of get rid of that, because getting rid of private businesses crumbles the middle class. If you crumble the middle class, you increase the gap between the have and have-nots, the elite, and the rest of us, which is essentially the goal of what socialism is. And communism is a form of worldwide socialism, whereas socialism, as me and you think about it on the traditional level, is state to state or nation to nation. Right? Now, once you want to bring socialism into completeness and unify it into one system, that is what communism is. So communism essentially is socialism. You can't have communism without socialism, and you can't have socialism without eventually ending up in communism. Okay, we've seen it time and time again in history, so I shouldn't really have to explain it. If you think that isn't true, just look up the history of Eastern Europe and the satellite nations of the USSR, which is Russia is now retaking them over. But this is where this all stems from. Yeah, I'll save this so that you guys can utilize it or whatever. I'm just gonna get through the first page, and then I think it's 3:35, so I don't want to be on here the entire time. So let's keep it going. Willing to use tactics like fomenting wars, depressions, and hatred, a monopoly which eliminates all competitors and destroys the free enterprise system. That's essentially what you're seeing going on in the United States right now, is the dismantling of the free enterprise system, the dismantling of free speech. The whole constitutional republic, it was set up just so that the middle class, a nation with a big enough middle class, could be created, so that that nation could then tax that big middle class and attain all of the monetary wealth through fractional reserve banking. Now that they've attained enough money to build the AI system, which the demonic spirits which are telling these elite what to do, now that they have that in place, there's no need for a constitutional republic to amass the middle class amount of income, the billions and trillions of dollars which were amassed in the 200 and almost 300 years that this nation has existed. Okay, now that they've got the AI set up, they can get rid of the constitutional republic and the United States corporation as we know it, and bring it back underneath the fold of world government. Yes, that's what the Great Reset is about. So if you niggas want to chop that little section up and make a snippet and share that, do your thing. Just make sure you tell people to come back to the page or who you got it from, and let them know that that brother only deals with one God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And he got his inspiration and his wisdoms from studying the Torah Tanakh, which is the words of this said creator, who is the God of his particular people. So either way, you can point them in this direction and I'll tell them that, or you can let them know that off rip. So the main point is so that people know that the God of this book is a real deal, and he is dealing with some of us. Not that we hear well, I don't hear voices. I just have dreams. That's about it. And sometimes, occasionally, I'll have like deja vu, which is like I guess like a day vision. But it's not really. It's like I went to sleep and I knew I got my instructions, and I woke up and then I'm in the moment, and that's what that's my theory on what deja vu is. Like whatever instructions I got in the dream world, I just come out and live my life, and then when deja vu happens, that's like reality letting me know, or the angels or whatever letting me know, nigga, you supposed to be here in this time, this moment. Stay focused. And that's essentially all of this. But yeah, so this live goes hand in hand with a lot of the shit that you see me post for the last maybe 6 or 7 posts. Okay. So let's finish. These insiders, or the insiders is another word for international bankers or the elite, are at the very highest levels, manipulate the social strata of government policy. Now, how do we tie this into reality? What do you think lobbyists are? Lobbyists are corporations which give donations to particular political candidates to carry out a particular agenda. This is why lobbyists were such a big issue in the first Obama administration, when that lying motherfucker said that he would not take one dime from a lobbyist in his presidential election and campaign run in 2004. And what did this bitch nigga do? He took all the fucking money and he did everything the money told him to do. The nigga lied about fucking everything. And I'm not only upset at him, all these motherfuckers do all the same shit. They all get in office, tell you a nice little good spiel, and then once that fat check come in, okay, and then corporations tell them political niggas what to do, all that talk go out the window. It's time to act. And that's how you judge people, based on their actions, right? Their track record. Okay? So that's what the social stratification is about, is to make sure that they secure resources, business opportunities, banking institutions, and ability to travel. And through the control of these things, they can create wars, depressions, and hatred. So let's just finish this up real quick. They also chose to prop up unknowns into leaders. So Hitler was relatively unknown. So I'm not going to do a live after this. I'm just going to try to wrap this up real quick. Hitler was relatively unknown, but he was taken from obscurity by the elite because of his charisma. Who does that remind you of, if not Barack Obama? Who the fuck knew anything about Barack Obama before 2004? Nobody. He became a senator for about one term before he ran for presidential election. If that doesn't say controlled opposition and puppet, I don't know what the fuck does. Ain't nobody know a Barack Obama before 2004. Then all of a sudden he popped on the scene, and the media, doing their job as the fourth branch of the government, built up his popularity. Same thing with the bitch Kamala Harris. Ain't nobody heard of Kamala Harris before she was sucking dick back in 2015 and 16. A married man's dick. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying. Okay? So let's finish this up. We got 60 seconds or less. They choose to prop up the unknowns into leadership. So Hitler, he came from a poor family. Mind you, he's a Rothschild bastard seed, but that's another story. Without social position, and was a high school dropout. Ended up being a dictator of one of the most powerful nations in the 20th century. Lenin, he was the son of a petty bureaucrat who spent most of his adult life in poverty. Ended up running one of the worst, most murderous communist nations in history, second to only Mao Zedong. The insiders who fund these men are superbly educated and command immense social prestige, able to pool amounts of money to carry out their purpose. This is what trust funds are about for the elite, right? Here, let's just end it with this last quote, last 5 seconds. Communism is an arm of a bigger conspiracy run from New York and